Hello, are we good? Welcome back to my channel. Oh, I did something. I slept wrong. I don't know what it is, but every time I like look over my neck, it hurts. I don't know what I did, but I pulled a muscle, I think. Anyway, hi. Today I'm going to talk all about my Philodendron Gloriosum. I'm really excited to share her with you. But before we get into that, I wanted to do a quick little unboxing. I got a planter set from Joe Fammy. They reached out, wanted to send me a planter set, and they have some really cute stuff. So I picked one out and I said, you can send it. I might put this in another video in the fall. Because I plan to repot some of my plants in the fall, and I think these would be really cute cactus planters. For starters, these are packaged really well. Obviously, I prefer not to use the styrofoam because it's not very eco-friendly. Whoopsie doopsies. But I can reuse this when I send plants to other people because it keeps your plants nice and safe. Okay, so this is a 3 planter set, and I love this shallow bowl, which is why I chose this for my cactus, because I think it'll be just a great little cactus dish. And there are 3 little pots, or 2 other pots inside of here. So this one is like a pinkish colored one. I love that ribbing on the edge there. And then we have a white one. Same thing, nice and shallow, just a little bit bigger. And then we have the gray one. And then this is the biggest one, which I could probably put a few cactus in here. Now these are plastic and they're lined with like, well, it's plastic, so it's not lined with anything. It's just plastic coated. But these are really cute. I do like that they have the drainage holes, obviously, but they also come with 3 little plugs in case you wanted to plug it and not use the drainage hole. Maybe you have hydroponics that you want to use with it. I'm not sure how well these work because I haven't, tested them out yet, but that's a nice little option to have. Cute little bowls that I'm definitely going to use in the fall. All right, let's put you guys back in here. Thank you so much for sending these. So I want to talk today about my Philodendron Gloriosum. And if you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Nicole, and I don't typically do a lot of care videos. I watch them because obviously when I get a new plant, I want to know everything about that plant and how best to care for it. But I don't do a lot of these videos, but I thought maybe I should. Maybe I should take everything that I've learned after research, things that I've done with my plants, and just kind of put it into a series almost, and maybe do a few care videos on specific plants in my collection. If you hear my dog snoring, she's very loud. She's in most of my videos in the background snoring. There you go. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of adjusting with the camera here, but I do have 2 Gloriosums, and I have one here. This one is in Lechuza Pon, and it's actually doing pretty well. This first original leaf on here, I got this a few months ago. It was not doing very well. It's kind of curled up. So I put it on this like little trellis here to keep it from falling over. And then since I've done that, it's put out a new leaf, which is right here. She's cute. I'm waiting for it to open. I literally just put some Velcro tape on the stem to keep it up because it was kind of shooting off to the side. And I wanted it to grow a little bit more upright, so I'm trying to train it. But then I also noticed that there is a growth point right there for a new little nubbin. So there's going to be another leaf coming in pretty soon. I think that this plant really enjoys being in the Lechuza Pon. This is kind of similar to hydroponics. I find that the only difference with Lechuza Pon and using leca is that you don't really have to get your roots completely clean. Although when this was sent to me, it was bare root. There was no soil on the roots. So I think she's doing pretty well. And then I have this one, and I am going to have to drop her down to my level. There you go. So you can sit together. This one I was recently sent in the mail from Equigenera from Florida, and it is doing so well. I put it on this moss pole, And it has a new leaf, a new growth point, and a new leaf coming out. And I'll show you that right here. You can kind of see it sticking out right here. I'm gonna tip it and kind of show you. Look at that. It's crawling along the soil there, and that's sticking out right there. Got a couple little fungus gnats on there, but that's all right. Not a lot. I'm all right with it. The soil's actually pretty dry, so it definitely needs some water soon. But let's talk about these babes. I'm actually noticing it has like a little bubble spot in it, which could be from overwatering. I hope that doesn't leave a scar, but it probably will. Let's read a little Snapple facts on the Philodendron Gloriosum. The Gloriosum is a philodendron, okay, and it's a crawling plant, which is why you can kind of see that plant crawling along the bottom of the soil there. This would actually really benefit from a wider terracotta pot, but for now, it's all right until that new leaf comes out. Then I'll probably have to repot it. They're native to Colombia. Even though this plant's origin is Colombia, you can find them also native to countries like Central America, Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela. You can find these growing pretty much outside in the wild, which is my dream. I gotta get down to Mexico, guys. And they're categorized as more of a slow grower, which I guess I can kind of agree with that. I got this Gloriosum, like I said, I think it was back in May, and it's put out a new leaf, but that's the only leaf that it's put out since then. And it's in kind of its optimal conditions, that, well, as optimal as I can give it in my home environment. I have it on a heat mat that I got from Vivo Sun, and then it's also under some grow lights on my shelf back here. So I feel, and it has some fertilizer in it as well. So I feel like it is kind of a little bit of a slower grower. This girl right here put out its third little growth spurt, I'd say maybe a couple weeks ago. But it took a couple weeks to get acclimated to my home too. So I don't know, maybe check back with me in a year and maybe I'll tell you the same thing, that it's a slow grower, or maybe I'll tell you it's a faster grower. I don't know, we'll have to see. Some watering tips. I always allow my soil Gloriosum to dry out completely before I water it. And that's usually about 2.5 weeks. This one is in terracotta though, so it tends to dry out a little bit quicker because terracotta draws water away from the roots, which is nice. I think it enjoys being in terracotta. For my Lechuza Gloriosum, I just check the water reservoir every 2 weeks and see what's going on in there. I have found that since I got this and put it in the pond, it has needed fresh water probably every 2 weeks. So I'm assuming that this one's probably drinking just about the same. Your Gloriosum will let you know when it's thirsty, but you really don't want it to get to the point where it's drooping its leaves, because sometimes it might be too far gone at that point. So you just really want to make sure that you're watering your plant once it fully dries out, and they're pretty forgiving. Just don't let it go too long. The conditions are going to be different in your home or where you live though. If you have these planted in pots outside, it may be you need to water it much more frequently because maybe they're drying out a little bit quicker. If you have them inside your house as house plants, I would say probably every 2 weeks or so, but just make sure that your soil is completely dried out. It does not like to have wet feet. Just like most philodendron, it likes to dry out completely. You don't want to risk root rot by overwatering. These can get pretty big in their natural environment. I've seen some quite large, but typically they can get up to about 8 feet, which is, you know, life size, bigger than life size. I don't think they'll ever get that big in my home. A lot of people get the Gloriosum and the Glorious confused, or they don't know the difference. And pretty much a Glorious is just a cross between a Gloriosum and a Melanochrysum. So that's the difference between a Glorious and a Gloriosum. It's the baby of the Gloriosum and the Melano. Bright indirect sunlight is best for these. If you don't have grow lights like I do back here, you want bright indirect sunlight. What does that mean? Do we know what that means really? Bright indirect sunlight? Yes, bright indirect sunlight is pretty much what you're looking at right now. I have a window in front of me. It's giving me bright light, but it's not direct light. It's indirect light. So the sun is not shining directly on the leaves, causing them to burn. You also have to be careful if you're going to put these in a window, especially a south-facing window. I would keep them pulled a little far back, because depending on where you're at in the globe, where I'm at, I'm in the Midwest in North America, and the south window, like in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day or the early afternoon, is very hot, and the light, the sun rays just come through the window, and it can actually amplify the sun, and it can burn your leaves. So you just have to be kind of careful, and it could be a learning curve. You might have to kill a leaf or two to figure that out. We've all been there. But bright indirect light is best for these. Or if you have some grow lights, you could stick it under some grow lights, just not too close to the grow light, because again, depending on the strength of your grow lights, you could burn them too. These grow really well in humid conditions. They love the humidity. General rule of thumb for me is if I notice my humidity levels in my house dip below 40%, and they absolutely can in the winter months, I like to amp it up with a humidifier. Give it a little humidity boost. Some people mist their plants. I really don't mist my plants, but I have a humidifier going in the winter months for sure. So the more humidity they can have, the better. They love that. I'm just kind of just sitting here, just don't mind me. I have this soil Gloriosum in a soil mixture that is De La Tank's soil. It's a specifically blended soil mixture. I can link it in the description below if you'd like to check it out if you haven't already. But if you're looking for something quick and maybe you have something around your house, I would steer clear of a more like heavily soil-based substrate. I would go more with like an orchid bark kind of mix. You want an airy soil mixture, maybe like 10% soil, maybe some perlite or some pumice mixed in with some orchid bark. That might be the best for these. That's kind of what I do with most of my plants. If I can't get my hands on De La Tank soil, which is pretty much my go-to because it's already measured out, it's already mixed perfectly for aeroids and cactus really, I go to a mix kind of like that if I have to. Again, if I was to repot this plant, I would probably use a longer, more rectangular planter because the circle one, like I mentioned earlier, just doesn't allow it to creep. It's a creeper, it wants to creep. So I'll probably end up repotting it in the fall or maybe in the spring in a bigger planter that's more rectangular. Fertilizing, I fertilize my plants typically at the beginning of the spring, and then I do it every other time I water. So we're looking at maybe once a month for fertilizing in the summer months. Now this is going to depend on where you live again. Obviously all the growing conditions are different. If you live in a climate that is warm 90% of the time, you're gonna fertilize more often. Our plants tend to go into a dormancy in the Midwest in North America, so I don't fertilize in the winter because they're taking up less nutrients, they're drinking less, they're not growing as much. I usually like to try a liquid fertilizer. I usually use a liquid fertilizer that's maybe like a 20-20-20 mix. There's a great video by Summer Rain Oaks that I'll link in the description below. She goes in depth on all fertilizers, which will really help you if you're new to the houseplant collecting community and you want to learn a little bit more about fertilizers. It's a great video to go reference. But I typically try to stay somewhere around there because it's safe. 222 is pretty safe. She's happy. Your plants will know if they don't like it. You don't want to find that out though, right? You want to make sure that you're taking good care of these leaves and any old dead foliage that may be on your plants. And this is in general, not only with Gloriosums. I like to take just a damp, soft microfiber cloth and wipe the leaves off. Keep your leaves clean. And same thing for dead leaves. You just want to snip them off. You don't want your plant to put too much energy into dying leaves to try to bring them back when there's no hope for them. You want them to push all their energy into the new growth and the growth that is yet to be, to push out that, you know, all those new leaves. Okay guys, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today in my Philodendron Gloriosum care video. I hope you liked it. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and I'm excited to do more of these types of videos. All right guys, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.